Yes, Impactors, welcome back to Online Impact week number 5. I feel like we're starting to get into a bit of a rhythm here with Impact, right? Last Tuesday night we had the Bible Reading Club, which happens at 7 o'clock, and we also had the social at 7:30. I think it is pretty much confirmed that every Tuesday night is the social. So come and join us this week for this week's social at 7:30. Last week we played Empires on Zoom, which proved to be probably just as bad as what it was at the weekend away. Lots of name forgetting, lots of errors, but in the end, Caitlin was the queen of the empire after an absolute blunder from the Aitkins. So if you want to be part of the Bible Reading Club, come and join us at 7. If you want to join us for the social, we'll see you at 7:30 on Tuesday night. Last week on Zoom, we looked at some of the best meals that I've probably ever seen. Zavon took the crown for cooking during COVID, but at the end of last week, I set you this challenge, the handstand challenge. Were you able to learn how to do a handstand during this past week? And if you could already do one, how creative could you get? Well, personally, I fell into that first category. I could not do a handstand. Now, it's the end of the week. Can I do a handstand? No, I can't. I can't do a handstand. I could try against that wall if you want. I can feel you all saying, go on, do it. No. Shall I try it? I am better than what I was. I'll give myself that. I'm gonna break my back. Let's do it. Let's just move the chair right out here, well out of the way. So many wires down here, it's unbelievable. This is not... I'm gonna use the wall to help me. That was the best I could do. I'm sorry, I can't do a handstand. Okay, this week's challenge of the week is a little bit more my forte. That means it suits me down to the ground. This week's challenge of the week is to write a haiku. What's a haiku, I hear you ask? Great question. A haiku is a short poem that is split into 3 lines. Each of the lines have different syllables. Line 1 has to have 5 syllables, line 2 has to have 7 syllables, and line 3 has to have 5 syllables again. The challenge this week is to write the best haiku out of all the impactors. Remember, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables, a 3-line short poem. And the topic for your haiku is, what are you going to do after lockdown? Let's sprinkle a little bit of positivity on these challenges. We'll call it the Life After Lockdown Challenge. Get your quills out and start penning some poems, Shakespeare. Grab your Bibles and turn to John chapter 11 for me. I just wanted to share with you this week that it has been quite a difficult week for me. I film these videos on Wednesday nights, and on the Thursday I spend the whole day editing them. And at the end of my day on Thursday, I got some news about a friend at church. A really kind guy who loved Jesus and had a really tough diagnosis with cancer pretty much not long after I moved to Liverpool. And very quickly last week, he was admitted to hospital and he had coronavirus. And when you're on cancer and you have no immune system, that's a really bad place to be. The news came through that my friend had passed away because of coronavirus. And someone who you know and who you care about dying is still quite a new thing for me to experience. It was really tough last week. And I was thinking about you guys, and I was thinking that COVID-19 might have been the first time where you guys actually started thinking about death for the first time. I remember that the first time where I really started thinking it for myself was when my granddad passed away. And it's true what they say, once you start thinking about death and the repercussions of it, it's really hard to kind of just stop those thoughts. People die. People that I love die. I am going to die one day. And we really struggle to work that out because we experience life through our own eyes. And to think that one day we're no longer going to experience something. One day our eyes are going to be closed and that's going to be it. Time and space is going to keep on moving, but we're not going to be part of it. That is a really confusing concept. The story of our life is going to end at some point. The story of people that we love's life are going to end some point. And what happens then? If death has kind of popped into your head or you've thought about it during this coronavirus crisis, then I really want to show you a true story from the Bible in John chapter 11. Now, at the start of chapter 11, Jesus is making this journey to come and see his sick friend Lazarus. But he takes time coming to see him, and Lazarus ends up dying. Lazarus is a good friend of Jesus. And when we pick it up in verse 28, Jesus arrives. He's greeted by Martha and Mary, who are Lazarus' sisters. And so Jesus arrives on the scene in verse 32. And Mary comes up to him and says, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit, and greatly troubled. And he said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus wept. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying?" Jesus arrives on the scene of one of his friends who has just died, and his friend's sisters are crying, and the Jews around him are crying. This is a sad and mournful time, and what does Jesus do? He weeps. Jesus cries. He shares in the sadness of death of a loved one. And so Jesus, on a man-to-man basis, sees that his friend is dead, sees all the grief and all the mourning from everyone around, and what does he do? He cries. He cries because death is a sad, sad thing. Life should not end. But on a different level, on a God to humanity level, Jesus cries. Jesus is the Word who was there at the beginning, creating all things. He did not create man to be dead in the tomb, but our sin has taken us there. Death isn't right. It is an intruder. It shouldn't be part of this creation, but because we've turned away from God, because we have rejected him as the one who is king and ruler of this world, and we've taken the throne ourselves, we deserve the punishment. And the punishment that we get is death. So Jesus weeps over his creation that has chosen death over him. Jesus cries because on a man-to-man basis, his friend is dead. And I know how that feels this week. And one day you will feel that too. But also Jesus cries because humanity isn't what it should be. And he as God knows that. But the great news about John chapter 11 is that Jesus doesn't just relate to death. He doesn't just weep with the weeping. He does something about it. Verse 38. Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be an odour, for he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." Without Jesus, this story would have only been tears. It would have only been never-ending tears about death, not just then but now. But Jesus comes and he does something about it. He is the only one who can do something about it. He is God in human flesh, and he has the power over death. Yet in just a few short chapters later, we see Jesus doing it again. He is the one who not only understands what it feels like to have someone you love die, but he is the one who knows what it feels like to die. It takes a whole lot of love. It takes a whole lot of pain. It takes the whole of God's wrath and anger poured out to him on the cross. And just like Lazarus, Jesus walks out of the tomb himself 3 days later. Here is a way to make it so that death is not the end. And for anybody who trusts that he is the one who has taken God's wrath, taken God's anger, taken God's judgment on himself, and instead offered you mercy and grace and forgiveness, accept that. He is the one who chooses to die on the cross so that death would not be the end. I don't know where you are up to with thinking about death and your own death and the death of others that you know. Maybe you've still not thought about it yet. But I hope and I pray that one day John chapter 11 might come back to your mind. And in that moment of fear and worry about how is it all going to work out, what comes next, how do I get right with God, we look at Jesus and we see that he relates and we see that he shares in the pain of death. But we also see that he does something about it. He experiences it and he tastes it himself so that death would not be the end. He takes it on himself so that we, although we will taste death, we will never experience the fullness of the judgment that comes with it. That is good news. And now is as good a time as ever for people to hear that. A bit of a deeper one this week, guys. If you've not thought about death yet, sorry, this video's probably made you start thinking about it. I hope you enjoyed Impact this week. I can't wait to see you guys. It's been so long. Come and join us at the social. It is a fun time. Don't worry, we won't play Empires for like an hour. We won't do that again. If you want to join us for the Bible reading club at 7 o'clock, half an hour before the social, give it a go. Try and dive into Matthew's Gospel with us and just kind of read it along on a daily basis and just come and chat about it. I'm offering some tips on Bible reading and trying to do it together and help one another to do it together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm going to send you back over to Zoom. Lots of love.